In this video, we'll complete some examples in which we're asked to apply function transformations. Here's our first example. If 1, 3 is a point on the graph of the function y equals f of x, which of the following points must be on the graph of y equals 2 f of x? So what I've done is I've come up with a function that 1, 3 definitely lies on. And I just thought about a simple linear function that passes through this point. The equation of this function would be f of x equals x plus 2. So I used Desmos and I typed in f of x equals x plus 2. I also typed in the point 1, 3, and the graph that we're looking at is the result of that. Next on Desmos, I typed in 2 f of x, and I got this orange function, which is twice as steep as the original function. And so then I said, well, which of these points that are given lies on the orange function? I tried 1, 3/2, 2, 3, neither of these points lie on it. This next point, 1, 6, does lie on the graph 2 f of x, and then 1/2, 3 does not lie on it. So the answer to the question is 1, 6. And you can see, looking at the symbols of the equation, if 1, 3 lied on the original curve, and then I'm saying the new curve should have a y value that's twice as big as the original, I think you'd agree that it would make sense why 1, 6 would lie on the graph of y equals 2 f of x. So now we'll look at another example. Suppose the x-intercepts of a graph of y equals f of x are -5 and 3 as shown below. First question, what are the x-intercepts of the graph of y equals f of x plus 2? Now pay attention to the fact that the plus 2 is inside of the parentheses. That tells me this is going to be a horizontal shift, and I'm going to be shifting 2 to the left. So my x-intercepts of y equals f of x plus 2 are 2 lower than the original, or 2 less than the original. So we'll say -7 and 1. All right, so now the next question, what would be the x-intercepts of the graph of y equals f of x minus 2? This is a shift 2 to the right, so my x-intercepts would be 2 more than the original. Third question, what are the x-intercepts of the graph of y equals 4 f of x? Now this is an interesting case because 4 times the function basically means the function is going to be 4 times as steep at any given point. The y value will be 4 times the original y value. But because these are intercepts, 4 times 0 is still 0, so the intercepts will still be the same for y equals 4 f of x. Problem D, what are the x-intercepts of the graph of f of -x? Now f of -x, remember, means you're going to be switching the signs of your x-intercepts. So my new x-intercepts are going to be -3 and 5. So these are really cognitively a little bit on the demanding side, because what we're asking you to do is to generalize, and you're using higher order thinking to do that. Let's look at one more example. Suppose that the function y equals f of x is increasing over the interval -1 to 5. So whatever function you have in your mind, as you look at the graph along the x-axis from -1 to 5, this thing is increasing. Now the first question says, over what interval is the graph of f of x plus 2 increasing? You just have to remember what f of x plus 2 implies. It means you're making a shift to the left. Therefore, the curve will be increasing over the interval of -3 to 3 because I've subtracted 2 from each endpoint of the given interval. Again, these are challenging. There's a lot of visualization that's going on and a lot of deep understanding of function characteristics. Problem B, over what interval is the graph of y equals f of x minus 5 increasing? Okay, so f of x minus 5, think about that. That means I'm shifting the curve 5 to the right. And so the original interval of increasing will be shifted 5 to the right. I'm adding 5 to those endpoints. Okay, what can be said about the graph of y equals negative f of x? Now, negative f of x is a reflection over the x-axis. So if it was originally increasing from -1 to 5, it will be decreasing on the interval -1 to 5 if we're talking about negative f of x. What can be said about the graph of y equals f of negative x? This one here is going to be decreasing from -5 to 1. So see if you can kind of come up with some reason in your head as to why these things are true.